Fight Club was a book that changed my life. I was one person before I read it, and I was another person after I finished it. Oh, and I'm probably going to be breaking the first and second rules of Fight Club. Sorry.
It's time to let go. Let's start the show now. It's time to let go.
When bringing up the topic Fight Club, you almost always have to include David Fincher's 1999 film. Brad Pitt was perfectly cast as Tyler Durden, as was Ed Norton and the rest of the cast. The performances, the visuals, everything worked. It made me wonder if a sequel would be possible. Fast forward to 2015, when the 10-issue comic book series Fight Club 2 debuted. Upon the conclusion of the 10-issue series, it was universally panned by readers. Negative criticism of Fight Club 2 focused on its lack of originality, confusing narrative, strange metaphysical subplots, and Chuck Palahniuk's pretending to be Deadpool and breaking the fourth wall. I'm just going to say it now. Wait. Not so fast. Talk of a Fight Club film sequel began in 2016 after the comic book sequel was published. According to various media sources, Brad Pitt was all in to return. However, the little detail Ed Norton was not. Some articles on this topic even went as far as to say David Fincher had ideas about how the sequel could potentially look. Years passed and no news came. In 2020, there was some talk of Fight Club being rebooted. Zac Efron was frequently mentioned as a possibility for the role of Tyler Durden. And to that I say, why not? Personally, I'd rather see the whole story rebooted and retold than Fight Club 2 be brought to life on film. This ties into a much bigger discussion about when characters we enjoy, in some cases characters we love, are taken in different creative directions, and it not only impacts the story they are in, but the ways fans respond to the changes. I'm looking at you, Tom King and Dan DiDio, making my favorite Flash, Wally West, a killer. Concentrate. We're talking about Fight Club here. Where does that leave the fans like me that love the original book and the film, but hate the comic book Fight Club 2, and really hate the comic Fight Club 3? Do we have to turn in our Fight Club membership cards? Not necessarily. First of all, the obvious. The novel and film will live on forever and can be enjoyed anytime we want. Secondly, if you crave something new that you actually enjoy, all hope isn't lost. Well, sorta. Maybe. Included with copies of Fight Club released after 2005, the author penned an afterword talking about the impact the book and the film had on culture at large and his own life. He also shared how the novel came to take shape. So today we're going to talk about the newly added afterword and the patron saint of angry 13-year-old boys everywhere, Chuck Palahniuk. Palahniuk begins the afterword with a story involving the Haunted Tunnel Tour, hosted by a cowboy who has been drinking. The cowboy recites the line, "The first rule of the Haunted Tunnel Tour is you don't talk about the Haunted Tunnel Tour." The author responded to the cowboy that he wrote that book. The cowboy's response was, "There was a book?" He then reflects on how his story went on to become a novel and then a film. He mentions how the character Tyler Durden became a shorthand for rebellion. Actual fight clubs were discovered in universities and in basements of Mormon churches. The author receives photographs to this day from strangers with bruised and battered faces, evidence of their own fight clubs. Because that's what everyone wants in the mail. Before all of this, Palahniuk says there was a short story that he wrote to get through an afternoon at his job. Palahniuk wanted to move from one scene to another in a story without losing the reader. With this style, he could focus on key moments in the story and then leap to the next moment in a film-like style. He decided that he needed something like a chorus, a transitional device to signal a change in scene to the reader. He decided on the rules of Fight Club first. The fighting wasn't the important part of the story. What I needed were the rules, those bland landmarks that would allow me to describe this club from the past, the present, up close or far away, the beginning and the evolution, to cram together a lot of details and moments all within 7 pages, and not lose the reader. The author repeats the rules of Fight Club throughout the novel. He also makes use of repetition to lead the reader and to let the reader put various parts of the narrative together. As he was working on his short story, Palahniuk says he had a lingering black eye from a fight he had gotten into during his summer vacation. He noticed that no one he worked with had ever asked him about the black eye. He found this of particular interest. "I figured that you could do anything in your private life if it left you so bruised that no one would want to know the details." Palahniuk also discusses how he saw a television report about street gangs. The report found that many of the young men in the gangs were raised without fathers and were trying to help each other enter manhood. They issued orders and challenges, imposed rules and discipline, rewarded action, all the things a coach or a drill sergeant would do. He decided that his story would need the dynamics of a game with rules and roles, but that it could not be overly sentimental or emotional. It could have been barn raising club or golf club, and it would have probably sold a lot more books. If it were too sentimental, it would not connect with male readers. Man, if it was up to me, it probably would have been Michael Jackson Club. See, I told you I could fit Michael Jackson into anything. Or Transformers. Instead, he settled on a 7-page short called Fight Club. It would go on to become the first story he ever sold. It was purchased for $50 and published in an anthology called The Pursuit of Happiness. The short story version would become chapter 6 of the novel. Palahniuk decided on the length of 7 pages because his writing teacher had joked that 7 pages was the perfect length for a short story. For content, Palahniuk drew from stories his friends would tell him. There was a friend who spliced pornography into family films, and another who urinated in soup as a waiter. Palahniuk claims that years after the book and film were released, he was in London when a young waiter at an expensive restaurant told him that he loved how he had captured waiters spoiling food. The waiter said he had spoiled Margaret Thatcher's food on at least 5 occasions. In a sense, Palahniuk thinks of his novel as an updated version of The Great Gatsby. He says, there are 2 men and a woman, and one man, the hero, is shot to death. Considering the somewhat open-ended final chapter in the novel, it can be debated as to which man actually survives. He finishes the afterword by talking about the impact of the book's release and discussing attending a festival. At the festival, he says, men drink and fight one another while chanting, "We are men," repeatedly. Sometimes the women may fight each other too. After the fighting, when they are exhausted, the men and women go to church and get married. Being tired isn't the same as being rich, but most times it's close enough, he says. Using this analogy, Palahniuk seems to suggest that there is something very much human about the act of ritualized fighting that lends a type of wealth, albeit not a financial one, to the participants' lives. In short, it makes them feel alive in a way that material wealth never can. So there you have it. And to Chuck Palahniuk, thank you so much for creating art that mattered so much to me when I first read it, and it still matters to me to this day. And while I've never participated in any fight clubs, and never will, the book still changed me fundamentally, and it changed how I perceive the world. I will claim till the day I die that I think that book should be required reading, as it is a coming-of-age story, and in a lot of ways, it's one of the most true pieces of art I've ever experienced. To go back to what I was saying earlier, even if a creator takes a character you love in a different direction, the art you once loved hasn't changed. And if you can find new ways to enjoy it, like learning something new about it, or even looking deeper into something like the afterword of a story, you can give it new life in your world. And when you do that, maybe then the character you love, the story you love, can live forever in your heart, frozen in time. Or there's always fan fiction. And if I could say one last thing to Chuck Palahniuk, we need to have a sit down about Fight Club 2 and 3 because there is some serious. Thank you for watching, guys. Bye.